Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chris Maloney back for another edition of CWN Recap. It is about almost 11:30 on Saturday night, and it was a pretty good show tonight as far as Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory goes. So if you're watching live, thank you very much. And if you have any comments at all, feel free to say what you need to. And if you're watching on video later on, thank you very much for watching. If you're listening on audio, thank you very much as well. So Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory took place tonight. Pre-show was at 7 p.m. The main show took place at 8 p.m. So, they did get off the air by 11. So it was a 3-hour pay-per-view. The hour-long pre-show had a little bit of glitching, but it wasn't too bad. Considering the fact they had one match, they had the obviously Ken Shamrock being inducted the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. But fact is, when it comes down to it, it was free, so you can't really complain. So live countdown to Glory pre-show took place 7 o'clock tonight. It was on Fight. It was on YouTube. I think it was on Facebook Live as well. I wasn't on Facebook, but I know it was on YouTube as well as Fight. So hosts were John Burton. Not really familiar with this guy, so I had to do some research. He is Nashville WTVF sports anchor and former pro wrestler. He is also the guy who I think it was before Slammiversary was doing all the announcements about all the talent getting released from WWE, doing the hype videos and this and that, but that was the same guy. So he was part of the panel. Madison Rayne was part of the panel. D'Lo Brown was part of the panel as well. Commentators for the pre-show for the match were Matt Striker and Don Callis. So Don Callis made his return to Impact Wrestling as far as commentary goes. He had actually announced that with regards to F4W Online, so the Wrestling Observer, he had announced that with Lance Storm to say he was coming back for the pay-per-view. So I'd already known that Don Callis was coming back, but the fact is, when it comes down to it, he's one of the executive vice presidents there for Impact Wrestling. Also has a long tenure as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling went. Canadian boys, so obviously a little bit of bias and partial. To the fact is, I like the guy on commentary. Didn't necessarily like him as a wrestler, but the fact is, on commentary, yes, he knows his product, he knows the moves, so it is nice to hear. So, in saying that, one match on the pre-show, the live countdown to Glory pre-show. So it was the Deaners taking on the Rascals. And you know what? I went 1 for 1 as far as predictions go, so to speak, as far as this went. So Cody got the pin on Dez. It was a short match, but it was a good showing from the Deaners. Like I had said, if you'd watched the prediction show, this was the opportunity to basically get the Deaners over, to basically present them in that tag team championship, to give them, I'm stuttering my words already, but the fact is to put them in that title picture, so to speak. So fact is, Deaners got the win. They had a strong showing, short match. So yeah, the fact is they could compete with the tag team championships, given the next month or two. So a good win for them. Ken Shamrock was then inducted into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame by The Rock. The Rock was not there. He was on video, so he'd done a pre-recorded video, it looked like from his backyard. Ken Shamrock came out with, I want to say Matt Cross, but Matt Striker. Come out with Matt Striker. Matt Striker presented with the award. Ken Shamrock went on to thank Vince McMahon, Bret Hart, as well as The Rock. And then video congrats prior to the induction were from Bret Hart, Mick Foley, Ariel Helwani, Bas Rutten, and Chael Sonnen as well. So the fact is, when it came down to it, they had legends involved from the pro wrestling business. They also had MMA, legends involved as far as Bas Rutten and Chael Sonnen went. And then, like I said, Ariel Helwani as well, who is a Canadian boy. But they all gave praise to Ken Shamrock and basically said, hey, welcome to the Hall of Fame. You deserve it. Congratulations. And hopefully you have a lot more years in the wrestling business, as far as his career goes. So, and I will get that. I will get to that during the card itself. But it's hard to believe. I shouldn't say hard to believe, but it's amazing to see the shape that Ken Shamrock is in at the age he is at. And I will get to that, like I said, throughout the show here. So, pay-per-view itself, commentators switched over to Josh Matthews as well as Don Callis. So Don Callis remained. Matt Striker took off. Josh Matthews, obviously the voice of Impact Wrestling, took over. Match number 1 was a 6-way scramble. So TJP, Jordan Grace, Rohit Raju, Chris Bay, Willie Mack, and Trey Miguel were in the match. One of the things I want to comment on is Willie Mack's agility. He moves like a freaking cruiserweight. I've never seen a guy that big he reminds me a lot of Bam Bam Bigelow, Kevin Owens, so to speak. But a guy like that big should not be able to move the way he does. Like, he's hitting enziguris, he's hitting moves through the ropes, he's hitting moves all the way through, down to the floor. The fact is, like I said, Willie Mack is an amazing talent. First time I ever saw him was, I believe it was NWA, and it might have been Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And all of a sudden, he ends up in Impact Wrestling, and then he had the obviously the alliance with Rich Swann. But he is a gifted athlete, so it's a huge, amazing, I want to say feat, but the fact is, Impact Wrestling has him signed. Keep him, because the fact is, he's, like I said, the current nowadays Bam Bam Bigelow, so to speak, in my view. But end of the match comes Frog Splash by TJP on Trey. Looks like TJP is going to pick up the victory. Josh Matthews is obviously a fan of TJP, so he's basically praising him during the entire match. What happens is TJP goes for the win after the Frog Splash. Raju comes in, kicks TJP in the head, takes TJP, moves him aside, and basically pins Trey. So Rohit Raju, still Impact X Division champion. I called that as well. So right now I am 2 for 2 as far as my predictions go. Not too shabby at all. And I told my wife, I said, the fact is, you know what, 6 people in this match, and I called the right one. So yeah, it's a good, strong showing by Rohit Raju. The other thing as well, if you go to cwnonline.ca, you can see Rohit has signed a new contract with Impact Wrestling, a long-term deal, so probably about 2 to 3 years. But the fact is, he's remaining with Impact Wrestling. So a good move by him for remaining with Impact, and good move by Impact by basically keeping the title on him. So good for them. Match number 2 was the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. So basically, I'm going to go into I won't go over every single elimination, who they were eliminated by, because I kind of got confused when Taya Valkyrie kind of disappeared, but it was hard to keep up. But I will say this, I got the order entry correct. So Rhino came out first, Sean Daivari made his return next, Larry D, Crazy Steve, AC Romero, Tennille Dashwood, Havoc, Brian Myers, Swoggle. Yeah, Swoggle was in this match. Tommy Dreamer, Alicia Edwards, Kiera Hogan, Taya Valkyrie. Falaba, with the money in his shirt, which was kind of comical to see in the match. James Storm made his return to Impact Wrestling. So it might have been a one-night only type thing, but it was nice to see the Tennessee Cowboys, so to speak, back in Impact Wrestling. Adam Thornstone, Lester the Legend, Heath, Sami Callihan, and then finally the 20th entry was Hernandez. Josh Matthews got some of his picks mixed up. I was counting along. I was like, wait a second, he is behind, because he was calling the 17th pick, the 18th pick. But sure enough, those were all the entries into the match. Order of elimination were this. Crazy Steve went out. Daivari went out. Swoggle went out. Tommy Dreamer went out. Alicia, Tennille, Kiera Hogan, Havoc, Taya Valkyrie, Larry D, AC Romero, Myers. So Brian Myers went out. Falaba, Hernandez, Thornstone, and then Lester, or Luster, whatever you want to call him. So it came down to the final 4. So Rhinos, James Storm, Heath, and then Sami Callihan were the final 4. Order of elimination were this. So Storm got eliminated, and then Heath got eliminated. And the commentators kind of went nuts. They were like, oh my God, Heath is not going to get employed by Impact Wrestling. So the main event for the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match came down to basically Rhino and Sami Callihan. So Rhino ends up pinning Sami Callihan after hitting the gourd to win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match. Gets the trophy, gets to pick and choose what title he's going to go after. I'm assuming it's going to be the tag team titles, because basically he saved his own career in Impact Wrestling, as well as basically gave Heath a contract with Impact Wrestling. So I'm going to say these guys end up in the tag team division and basically going for the titles, and that's how Rhino is going to cash in on that. So pretty cool match. Some of the match highlights were this. So Havoc, Jessica Havoc, so to speak, hit a tilt whirl on AC Romero. So a big girl, big guy, and it was kind of interesting to see. Tommy Dreamer came out dressed as Road Warrior Animal. Basically a tribute to him. He had the face paint on. He had actually cut his hair down the sides as well. Had a Road Warrior Animal t-shirt on. I think you can get a collar and elbow. I think all the proceeds go to Road Warrior Animal's family and this and that. And then basically had the tights going on. I still had the polka dots, but he had the red and the black going on tonight. So that was Tommy Dreamer for you. Actually, another thing about Tommy Dreamer was this: he hit a doomsday device on who was it, Brian Myers. So Swoggle was in the match. Swoggle had been eliminated at this point. He comes back into the ring, climbs up on the second rope. This is Swoggle, by the way. And Dreamer basically kneels down, puts Myers on his shoulders, and then Swoggle comes off the top rope in tribute to the LOD, the Road Warriors there. So kind of a great thing to see there. And then a last little bit of piece of news as far as this match goes. Alicia brought out a handicap parking sign into the ring. So not just a regular, hey, stop sign, whatever the case may be. It was a handicap parking sign. So the announcers kind of picked up on that. So that was that match there. North backstage promo. The reason I mentioned this, because Ethan Page had mentioned in this promo, they have been without the championships, the tag team championships, for 94 days. And the promo that he had cut was intense. You could tell it was basically almost like real life. He's like, I'm missing these titles. We need these titles. We haven't had these titles in 94 days. We're kind of PO'd about it. We need these titles back. So it was a good backstage promo from Ethan Page there. Match number 3 of the night was EC3 taking on Moose. A cinematic match, backstage, basically ring in a warehouse. Darker version, basically, of Raw Underground is my thoughts on this. People surrounding the ring, slamming the mat. There was no referee, though. So music playing during the entire match, turnbuckle pads missing in some spots, and then Moose, for the basically the cinematic appearance, was dressed all in white. And the way that played in is basically EC3 got busted open, and obviously he gets busted open. Moose is wearing all white. So guess what? The cinematic effect, like I had said. EC3 hesitates basically at one point on the 1%er, so that's one of his finishing moves. So he's got the guy in the headlock, plants him kind of face first. And all of a sudden you see this clip of a TNA flashback of EC3 when he was back in TNA back in the day. He decides against going for the 1%er. Moose ends up spearing him, lays a huge beatdown with closed fists. So like I said, the cinematic approach, all you see is basically Moose up on top, and then fist, and then basically EC3 is getting the crap beat out of him. From there, Moose asks if this is what he wants. So he's holding up the title. He's the TNA championship there. EC3 screams yes. Ringsiders chant Moose with the hand signal. So the old Moose type thing. TNA flashback hits again. Moose lays out EC3 with the title. Ringsiders. So the Ringsiders, the guys planting the mat, so to speak, carry out EC3 as Moose leaves the ring. So no real winner here. Like I said, basically the Moose, I mean, if you had to pick a winner, would have been the winner. But the fact is, like I said, it was that cinematic approach, and it was interesting. It was, I thought it would be an actual match, but not as great as The Undertaker, AJ Styles, but not far off either. Better than John Cena and Bray Wyatt, I'll tell you that much there. All right, match number 4 of the night. So Ken Shamrock with Sami Callihan in his corner. So the new Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer, Ken Shamrock, taking on Eddie Edwards. One of the things I made note of was Ken Shamrock is 56 years old and looking the way that he does. Obviously he's the only life he's known. And I was telling my wife this earlier on. I was like, when I saw Ken Shamrock, I saw him in a match in Hamilton, Ontario for In Your House Breakdown. It was him taking on Mick Foley, taking on The Rock in a steel cage, and I believe it was the Intercontinental Championship that was on the line in Hamilton. And that was basically 22 years ago. So the fact is, Ken Shamrock still wrestling at 56 years old, 22 years later. It's absolutely amazing for the shape that he's in. Obviously, he looks a little bit older, but the fact is he's still doing his thing as far as the wrestling business goes. Very grounded, submissive match. One point, Eddie had the half crab on. Sami Callihan makes the lights go out. Obviously, the phone gimmick there. Lights come back on. Sami has that bat in his hand that he busted open Eddie Edwards with. Eddie has a kendo stick. Eddie hits Sami. Ken grabs Eddie, and then basically Shamrock taps out Eddie. So that's the way that match ended there. So Shamrock with the win. So prediction-wise, I think I picked EC3. He didn't, obviously win. Prediction-wise, I picked Sami Callihan to turn on Ken Shamrock. That didn't happen either. So I think I'm probably batting about 50% here, but I'll go into the next match here. So match number 5 was the 4-way tag match featuring the Motor City Machine Guns, the North, the Good Brothers, and Austin and Fulton for the tag titles. I had predicted basically Madman Fulton and Ace Austin to win the championships. That did not happen. So this is what happened during the match. After the entrances, Shelley got spiked on the entrance ramp by Josh Alexander with a double underhook pile driver before the bell. Callis calls Alexander a scumbag. There you go, Sean Bates. Scumbags mentioned again on Pro Wrestling Pay-Per-View. Sabin goes it alone. So Sabin kept in the ring by everyone tagging in and out. So it's basically Sabin's getting the crap beat out of him as all the other three teams are tagging in and out. Ace Austin's 23 years old, and they announced this. And the reason I bring this up is because the fact is Ken Shamrock at 56 is in better shape than Ace Austin at 23. So that is a compliment to Ken Shamrock there. Sabin basically showed perseverance in the match. 38 years old Sabin is. I remember had the honor of driving him to Collingwood, Ontario, as part of an independent wrestling show here in Ontario back in 2006, I want to say. And I guess Sabin would have been, early or mid-20s, I guess. But the fact is, Sabin can still move. One of the things that upset me about this match is Sabin going it alone. Like I said, Alex Shelley was injured before the match took place. Sabin hit a cradle shock on Austin. Ethan Page broke it up. The move was not called by basically Josh Matthews or Don Callis. Sabin hits his previous finisher as a singles wrestler, and you can't even call the move. So I found that was sloppy there. And then the end of the match comes. So belt shot onto Anderson by Page. So basically, I want to say Ken Anderson, but Carl Anderson is basically bouncing off the ropes. Ethan Page has got the belt outside of the ring, hits Carl Anderson. Josh Alexander's in the ring, rolls up Anderson for the win. Sabin attempted to save. He couldn't get there in time. And then we have new Impact World Tag Team Champions, as you've seen in the opening promo there, the opening picture. But yeah, the North are again Impact World Tag Team Champions. So we'll see how long they last this time. Last time it was over a year, and I think they are the longest reigning Impact Wrestling champions in history, not tag champions, but Impact Wrestling champions in history. So we'll have to wait and see if they can last another year. But it was a good match. Again, like I said, Chris Sabin won it alone. So I'm not sure what the whole Alex Shelley story was, whether it was a storyline or whatever the case may be. But again, new tag team championship with the North. So hence the Raptors hat. I had a Patriots hat going on. And I was like, no, you know what? We the North. I'm going to change it over to play in up to whatever the North. Yes. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Match number 6 of the night. So Deonna Purrazzo with Kimber Lee. Was scheduled to face Kylie Rae. And basically, it was interesting. So basically, Purrazzo comes out, waits for Kylie Rae to come out. Kylie Rae's music hits. Nothing happens. Kylie Rae does not come out. So Purrazzo cut a promo, basically said that Kylie Rae had no-showed and instead called anyone out who wanted to wrestle. So I had called this in the prediction show, but I didn't call this accurately, but I did call somebody who was going to basically appear at the pay-per-view, and that was Su Yung. So Su Yung came out to answer the challenge of Deonna Purrazzo. Kylie Rae, I don't know if it's storyline. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, because if you watch the pre-show, they played it out like it was going to take place. They mentioned Kylie Rae during the event itself during the pre-show. The match itself with Su Yung as well as Deonna Purrazzo, Kylie Rae was barely mentioned at all. So I don't know if it's basically a work or a shoot, but the fact is Kylie Rae was nowhere to be found. Su Yung came out. Like I said, not much talk about Kylie Rae during the match at all. Punt kick into the ref, basically by Purrazzo. Young goes for the pin, but there's no ref. This is the closing moments of the match there. So Kimber Lee gets up, chair shot to Su Yung. They go for the arm break. So obviously Deonna Purrazzo up on the ropes, goes to break Su Young's arm. That's avoided. Su Yung gets up, sends the mist into Kimber Lee, basically sends her off outside of the ring. Su Yung hits the panic switch on Purrazzo. Josh Matthews at this point is calling the match. We have a new champion, and usually when that happens, it's usually a kick out that takes place. That didn't happen though. Su Yung ends up pinning. Deonna Purrazzo ends up becoming the new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion. And so it'd be interesting because I thought Purrazzo was going to take this no matter what. I thought Su Yung was going to cost Kylie Rae the match. Obviously, that didn't happen. So yeah, new Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion in Su Yung there. So right after this match took place, we had Josh Matthews. Madison Rayne was on commentary, by the way, for this match. The first time she had come out. And, obviously, Knockouts legend there, so to speak, as far as Impact Wrestling goes. But Matthews, like I said, after this match announced that Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championship are returning January 21, at Hard to Kill. So again, they're put more emphasis, more focus on the Impact Knockouts division. I think it's great. You don't want to you never want to see too many titles in basically a company. But I think with the amount of knockouts they have and the amount of talent they have as far as their knockouts go, I think it's a great thing to see the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships come back. As long as Eric Young is not involved. ODB is no longer part of the division, so I think we're safe. But as long as they don't basically take a comic look at those titles, I think we're going to do good as far as the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships go. So that being said, main event times, mentioning Eric Young. Eric Young taking a Rich Swann for the Impact World Championship here. Clean shaven Rich Swann. So when they showed him coming into the arena, into the venue itself, he was clean shaven, dressed in a nice little red suit. Comes into the ring, no nonsense, Rich Swann. Swann basically, took it to Eric Young during the match. It was back and forth. Not a lot of real highlights go as far as the match itself goes. Nothing really stands out as far as, anything great goes. It was basically your typical kind of main event, championship match. But in saying that, Rich Swann hits the Phoenix Splash and becomes the new Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. So I called that. I know in my predictions. So anyways, a good thing to see. Obviously, Eric Young comes back. He's top of the mountain again. He comes back, and all of a sudden he puts over Rich Swann as the new Impact World Champion. We'll have to wait and see if he gets it back or whether or not we see anybody else feud with Rich Swann. But I think it's a great thing by Impact Wrestling. So, and the other thing is as well. So after Swann hit the Phoenix Splash and pinned Eric Young, held up the championship, the locker room comes out, empties, and then basically they're holding him up on their shoulders, much the same way Bret Hart was at WrestleMania 10. If you guys can remember that far back. I mean, that was 26, 27 years ago. But it was kind of a cool moment and good to see Rich Swann on top. And in saying that, you now have a husband and wife on top of Impact Wrestling as far as their championships go. So Su Yung married to Rich Swann real life, and they are both Impact World Champions. Have never got to meet Rich Swann, but I have got to see him live at an Impact taping I went to in Toronto a couple of years back. I got to see Su Yung, got to meet her in person, get her autograph, everything else. There's a picture on my Instagram, my old Instagram, was my personal Instagram, so to speak. Sean Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling said I sold the picture, so I'll maybe have to post that on the show or on the website there. But anyways, a great pay-per-view by Impact Wrestling. Bound for Glory, obviously that and Slammiversary are their main two. But they put the titles on new people here, kept the titles on some of the old people there. But the fact is, it's going in the right direction as far as Impact Wrestling goes. I was actually interested. I was actually invested in this. And I love to see, like I said in the beginning, the Deaners take over the Impact Wrestling Tag Team division. So we'll have to wait and see where they go with the win there on the pre-show. So, guys, in saying that, I always do this on my recap show, Match of the Night and Wrestler of the Night. So I had to be a little bit biased here, basically on the fact that he won at the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame, and that's Ken Shamrock tonight. So Ken Shamrock versus Eddie Edwards. That is my match of the night as far as Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory goes. It was a good, solid match, Ken Shamrock looked strong. Sammy Callahan played a factor in it. Eddie Edwards sold for Ken Shamrock, and Shamrock looked, like I said, 56 years old, and he's looking the way he does. So great for him. Wrestlers of the night. I say wrestlers of the night because I've got to do this. The North. I never would have predicted. I thought in my prediction show, you can go back and watch it. I thought it was going to be Madman Fulton and basically Ace Austin winning the titles. That didn't happen. The fact is, I didn't predict the Good Brothers winning it. I still feel like they have to chase, and they still are. Motor City Machine Guns, I'm not sure what happens with them from here, but I never expected the North to basically win the titles back. So I think this sets up for a huge feud between the North as well as the Good Brothers. I think it's going to be the Good Brothers at this point who are going to take the titles off the North. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or next year, but with them announcing Hard to Kill taking place in January, they might wait until then, because we are in October here, so it's only a couple months away. So anyways, those were my wrestlers of the night. The North, like I said, match of the night with Ken Shamrock taking on Eddie Edwards. like I said, solid pay-per-view there for Impact Wrestling. And it's been a big pay-per-view weekend. So, I normally don't cross-reference anything at all, but Khabib ended up retaining his UFC lightweight championship today, and then end up retiring post-match. So that was definitely interesting to see earlier on today. Obviously, Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory took place tonight. It was a great show. If you haven't seen it, you haven't seen the pre-show, definitely check that out. The Diener's going over, as well as the 7 matches that were on the pay-per-view itself. Like I said, we have Rohit Raju retains the title. We have Su Yung, Rich Swann, the North, all becoming new champions. So it was definitely a pay-per-view for you guys to check out. So I recommend that. And then tomorrow, we've got 2 shows as well. So we have, CWN Predicts, and that's Hell in the Cell 2020. That'll take place either live or it will be a premiere at 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'll post on CWN as far as the Facebook group goes, so you guys will know about that. From there, we will do CWN Recap as far as Hell in the Cell goes. You guys can check that out. That'll be about 10:30 tomorrow night. As soon as the pay-per-view goes off the air, so usually I go about 15-20 minutes after the pay-per-view ends, and then we'll go from there. But big weekend for wrestling as well as MMA, UFC. So UFC's in the books. We get Impact Wrestling in the books, and then tomorrow we get, like I said, Hell in the Cell 2020. So I'll do the prediction show at about 3 p.m. and then the recap show about 10:30 or so tomorrow night. So guys, thank you very much for watching and listening. Like I said, the pay-per-view was great. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Like I said, in the prediction show, it's only $30 for the show itself, so not much money at all. And like I said, I definitely recommend you guys checking it out if you can. So on that note, that is it. Thank you for watching and listening. And we will be back tomorrow with the prediction show for Hell in the Cell, as well as the recap show. So until then, everybody take care and thank you very much.